Does NaRRa give the minister powers to override every regulatory body in Jamaica, including environmental and planning authorities? Mr. President, that question requires a precise answer because the provisions in sections 21 to 24.
Greetings, Jamaica. Today, I want to say a few words about this condition of the country and this Auditor General report, which I've just had the chance to read, to do the Hurricane Melissa Relief Initiative audit. And you know, coming out of Hurricane Melissa, traveling through St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, parts of Trelawney, and you see the level of devastation to people's lives, how it set people back, how much loss they incurred, how much they are suffering. And I think to myself, why isn't the government doing more? We got all this help from overseas, from foreign governments, from international donor organizations, shipping materials, shipping food and other relief to the country. And for the first couple of months, that was being distributed until people moved on. But the sufferation is still there. I remember the Minister Grange asking me to be part of the telethon to encourage people to donate to the relief effort. And I said, well, Jamaica needs the help, I'm going to do it. So when I read this report saying that as at February 23rd, 2026, 5 months after the hurricane hit, ODPEM, which is the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, received a total of $1.44 billion in cash money donated for Hurricane Melissa, comprising $473.4 million Jamaican and $6.1 million US dollars, which is 963 million Jamaican dollars, from the Support Jamaica initiative and direct donations. And they had only used 26 million Jamaican dollars, less than 2%, to spend on the people who are suffering. That is an act of gross dereliction of duty of the government. People suffering. I just saw a video by a tourism worker, a lady, said she got 6 sheets of zinc, 6 pieces of wood, 3 boxes of nails, and a few hurricane straps. And because she got that as a tourism worker from the TEF, she was told she can't get any more assistance. And her house is still under tarpaulin. Every day it rains, she said, everything wet up. She has to set pan, bucket. Her life is still in turmoil. And all this money that was raised by the generosity and positive spirit of the Jamaican people here and abroad. And 98% of it, 5 months after the hurricane, still sitting down idle when people are suffering. The government roof initiative giving relatively small sums for people who have suffered major losses, and this money could have helped it go further. It's a disgrace. I think if there's anything that would make people angry in this country, knowing how much hardship the people who experience the brunt of Melissa have gone through, it is this. So I'm doing this video just to express solidarity with the victims of the hurricane and my outrage at how this matter has been handled. Remember, after Melissa, the Prime Minister took ODPEM, which is supposed to be an independent disaster preparedness organization, set up under some strong legislation. I know it because it was passed when I was Minister of Justice. And he took it, put it into the Office of the Prime Minister under his leadership, changed the man in charge and brought in somebody else from the JDF. And we all wondered why. And now we see this. 98% of the cash money donated 1.44 billion of it, not used at the end of February. Only less than 2% used to help people who desperately need the help. It's a crying shame.
Good morning and welcome to Voice of the People this morning. So I've been looking at multiple things within the space in which we are living. And the word that comes to me when I think about what's happening in the US with Amendment 14 and the implications of the repealing of Amendment 14, when it comes to the NaRRa bill in Jamaica, when it comes to some of the actions that we've seen recently through CARICOM and the leadership struggles that we're having within CARICOM, and the divisions that we're having within CARICOM, the word that comes to me is tyranny. Now, we have a situation where we live in democratic societies, or so-called democratic societies, where we have policies on paper, where we have constitutions and we have regulations. For example, at the University of the West Indies, where it's governed by regulations. We have governance mechanisms that are in place to keep us safe from ourselves and keep us safe from each other and to avoid tyranny. And little by little we have eroded the strength of those governance structures. We have eroded our own checks and balances on each other, and we have allowed tyranny to reign. We see that where there could quite possibly, where last year we would have believed that it could not happen, but this year we can recognize that African Americans in the United States could have their citizenship removed, where they become citizens of no nation. Now, we have the implications of NaRRa here, where our sustainability, anything that we have put in place towards sustainability, can be backpedaled and backtracked and overridden by one person, by the Prime Minister of the country. We have seen where literature and learning and all of the things that how we have evolved as people, that all of that is about to be eroded. And by next year we may not be able to recognize our own world, where one country can hold another country to absolute ransom, go in and take their leaders and take over because of tyranny. No, maybe it is the end of days that are the end of days that is coming, or we all need to go and listen to some of our persons who preach on the streets about the end of days, or we need to go to Revelations. But something has to give. We cannot have billions of dollars sitting down in Jamaica just waiting when people need help. We cannot have people not voting and sitting on the sidelines and choosing not to vote when they don't even recognize the implications of this. No, absolute power. I've been saying it. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And as we are here together, I think we need to be in it together to figure out what the end result would be and the end game will be, and how we need to stand up to ensure that we are able to survive this tyranny. Now, Jamaica, we had the opportunity You know, we're seeing all of the countries in the Caribbean one by one. Antigua had their elections. You know, they've had their democratic processes working. But money and capitalism cannot be our ideology, because that is the opposite of peopling. It's the opposite of people. It promotes tyranny. So I'm gonna leave it there, because this is a point where, though we are in it together, I wish we weren't, and that I wish that we had been educated, informed, and able to foresee what was going to happen, because all of us have had the field of foresight and many have chosen to ignore it. We're in this together, Jamaica. Let's fight tyranny.
Audit validates. The audit validates the government's argument for NaRRa. It is a validation of the government's argument for NaRRa. Because Jamaica's conventional procurement and implementation systems are not fit for speed, they are not fit for coordination, and the scale demanded by modern disaster recovery. That is precisely why NaRRa was proposed. Because NaRRa is not an attempt to bypass accountability. It is an attempt to modernize execution. And the Auditor General is pointing that out in the report.
So you are likely to have seen a flyer being disseminated by the Jamaica Labour Party operatives trying to paint the opposition members who voted no to the passing of the NaRRa bill as anti-restoration and rebuilding of the communities that have been damaged by Hurricane Melissa. Now you know that nothing could be further from the truth. This is deliberate misrepresentation, just plain politics. Because the point is, the opposition is fully for national rebuilding and getting Jamaica to a place where it was before Hurricane Melissa. The problem is not the what. The problem is the how. It's not what the bill intends to do, it's how it intends to do it. And we believe the how is potent enough to prevent the what from happening. That is the bottom line. So I'm going to go through it with you from what I understand, from what I've seen, but that is the overall. My thesis is that the opposition does not have a problem with restoring and rebuilding damaged communities via NaRRa. It is how NaRRa intends to do it is the issue. I'm going to talk a little bit about it in my videos to come. This is part 1 of Dissecting NaRRa.
Did you know that almost 99% of Jamaican politicians are criminal? Allegedly. I don't want them come sue me. But, big up TikTok lawyer. The whole of them are thief.
So the talking point about why only 1.8% of the money for hurricane relief was spent is that we need NaRRa. Y'all should cut the bullshit about needing NaRRa. There's no reason why we're up on our next hurricane season, just a few weeks away, and the money that people contributed to help those victims has not been spent to help them. Come on, man. I remember when the government launched the website, people were discrediting everybody's GoFundMe and fundraising efforts and said this is the only legitimate site. Can you imagine if people really hadn't contributed to all the other persons who were fundraising and doing donations, how bad the situation would have been? How worse the suffering would have been? Quite frankly, better than taking the money and give people them GoFundMe and give no cousin and friend with that fundraise for go down the west, because see, go to the government and where they put down only 1.8% spent. Crazy.
Wagwan, beautiful people of Jamaica. So, guys, finally the NaRRa bill has been exposed. Only 1.8% of 1.44 billion has been used so far. So, where will the rest of the money be spent? How will it be spent? Could it be the reason as to why the government is really pushing for the NaRRa bill to have this independent body that will centrally handle relief funds? Could that be the reason, guys? Because, by now things are not adding up. I don't know. According to me, things are not really adding up. If you look at this particular story very well, guys, it's not adding up. Things are not adding up in this story. If you look at the 1.44 billion relief funds, that is meant to help Jamaican people in times of crisis or after crisis or disaster. And now we have shocking news that 1.44 billion was contributed, only 1.8% has been spent, that is 26 million. So that will make Jamaicans to really think critically. Like, why is it that a huge chunk of the relief fund is still sitting there idle, and yet you have so many Jamaican people that are still struggling? They can't even afford food even by now, because some lost jobs and they were depending, those jobs were individual businesses. The businesses, they lost it due to the disaster. Some cannot even afford homes, because their homes were completely destroyed. So Jamaicans are asking about the money. Where is the money? Yes, you're telling us that it is there, it's lying idle, but where is it? We need to be assured of that. So if you look at the entire story that we're going to talk about, you can clearly see it's not so much about like the finances, but about the public trust. Does the public still trust the government in terms of all this particular issue of NaRRa bill, the 1.8%? Do you think so? Of course, we have a huge percentage who still believe in the government. We have those that don't, and it's life. We agree to disagree. So today I want us to talk about the NaRRa bill, because all this story, NaRRa bill is at the center of it. Because we were just in the process of, creating this NaRRa bill, then it starts spending, it starts managing the funds, the relief funds, and then again we are told that a small percentage has been spent only. But I know that if a huge percentage had been spent on the recovery and rebuilding issue, people wouldn't talk. It's only that it's a small percentage that has been spent. So the NaRRa bill, if you all remember, we have already talked about in these particular clips or our videos, This bill, it came out in Parliament and it was presented as a recovery and a reconstruction framework that has been designed to manage a disaster or a crisis. So if you look at the idea in itself, it's very simple. If it goes through, then that means that the NaRRa bill will allow for fast response, because clearly you can see it's now an independent body. The members of parliament don't have to come in and discuss about how to spend on it, why, when, to pass it, to agree on it. So if it goes to NaRRa, then it means that a body is going to be created and then it will manage the funds separately. It does not need anybody's approval. And you can see that it was going to bring a structured distribution, transparency, accountability. So it really sounds good, right? Having this central body that is going to handle national relief funds. And furthermore, there are so many things that are going to be avoided by having this bill in place. We are not going to have chaos. We are not going to have any delays. We are going to avoid mismanagement. But again, the opposition looked into it like very critically. And they told us that this particular structure is too slow. It's too bureaucratic. It's too unclear. And the focus in itself, it's not meant to do that. So they came out and told us how this thing is going to work. That number one, it's going to avoid accountability, oversight, name them, because it's going to be under the leadership of the executive and no other leaders will get involved, Anyway, we have the 1.44 billion question in place. Because, this figure is very big. If you talk about 1.44 billion, guys, money that was allocated for relief and recovery in Jamaica after Hurricane Melissa, I can tell you that this money is meant to support the good people of Jamaica that were massively affected, mildly affected in any way, to help them rebuild infrastructure, to help them respond to emergencies, to help them rebuild. But again, if you look at what we are seeing in our media outlets, and of course what Jamaicans are saying, it's very alarming. People are looking at the 1.8% figure that has been spent, which is 26 million. And of course, it raises a lot of concerns, more so about efficiency and also urgency, because somebody that has completely lost their home, they urgently need a home. They need to be helped, help those that are massively affected, and then you slowly rebuild and get people back to normalcy. So the thing is, if you talk about relief funds, they are not actually meant to stay idle, and that is why Jamaicans are furious and angry, by the way. These funds, they are meant to move very, very, very fast and with urgent. You don't need to sit down and, wait for the money to just sit there idly, yet people are suffering. And Jamaicans have been waiting for support. So Jamaicans really feel frustrated and mad at this particular point. So the public, these ordinary Jamaicans, they have come out and they have spoken so much. And you can see the frustrations in them, like why should this money sit idle? Who is this person that is responsible for the delays? What is this thing that is blocking the implementation process? So that this money can be spent on us, the people of Jamaica who are really suffering. Who should we hold accountable? I mean, Jamaicans are just frustrated, I can tell you. Because according to them, they have always seen this pattern. Frustrations comes from the fact that you have gone through it before. You already know what's going to happen, and then it happens and you become frustrated. I mean, It's just chaotic. So of course the system in itself is being questioned like so much. The NaRRa bill framework in itself, it was meant to help rebuild the island after disaster. In this case, it will be after the Hurricane Melissa disaster. But of course, if it goes through, it's going to help Jamaicans to recover and rebuild faster in any other disaster. Remember, Jamaica is in this location whereby it's prone to hurricanes, storms, earthquakes, you know. So the opposition, or rather those who don't support this NaRRa thing, they came out and talked about the presence of multiple layers of approvals in case this particular NaRRa bill goes through. They talked about unclear items in this bill. They talked about overlapping responsibilities. They talked about bureaucracy, low speed. They talked about so many things, by the way. So at the end of the day, Jamaicans will be like, okay, you are telling us all these things. Does it mean that NaRRa bill has been created for delivery or for control? Because that's where we need to understand as the ordinary people. Because at the end of the day, we voted you to go represent us in parliament. So we need to know, is NaRRa bill promoting delivery or control? In which, according to what we have seen even from our video, from our clips previously, they talked about control so much, like the parliament will not have control over that particular funds like it does now. They have to pass the budget. It has now to go to various body or organizations that deals with recovery, and then that's how Jamaicans are helped. So they're asking for the government to be accountable, because at the end of the day, whenever a large public funds are involved, accountability always becomes the main issue, the main topic. It's not just about policy planning, execution, the Jamaican people wanting answers. People want to know how much was spent, where was it spent, who benefited it, and what has remained in the kitty. So the opposition leaders have come out, they have talked, and they're really explaining these things. And when you listen to them, it makes sense. When you listen to the government promoting NaRRa bill, it makes sense. I mean, these politics things are really confusing us. So the opposition leaders are calling for audits of these particular funds that are spent on rebuilding. They are calling for also transparency. You know, I mean, it's really very hard to understand politicians at the end of the day, because everybody wants to have their points valid to the ordinary people. Again, trust issues are some of the items that have always existed between ordinary citizens and the government. And I don't know if that exists in first world countries. I really want to understand, because public trust issues are some of the items that really exists within third world countries and island. And most of the time, this is where things become really tough. If you talk about trust, when ordinary people that voted for you, when they stop believing you and your government, it's just like it's the end. When they reach there, it's the end. When people are no longer confident with you, I can tell you that even good policies will face resistance point blank. They won't really, and you'll see it. Once trust is eroded, nothing else means useful to anybody. Because, people at the end of the day, they no longer judge intentions. They judge what you call an outcome, the results. People need to see, yeah, you've done this. They can't come out and judge intentions like my intentions to do this, this, and that. No. And of course, perception is something very important in this life. In politics, what's believed so much, even me personally, if you talk like so much about something, then expect very little impact or very little visible impact. But if you actually talk less, people do expect you to work more. Like, not really expect, they know you'll actually do it. Just say less. And it's actually a trend that I have noticed in politics. Those politicians who talk less, they do so much. Their results, you just see them, you don't even hear from them. But get those who talk too much, less results. So those are the things that the leadership need to understand. So at the center of this whole story, NaRRa bill is one of the main issues that people are talking about. The NaRRa system. They are really wondering, is it going to deliver real results, or they're just promises? They don't know, because relief funds, there are things that they're not really taken so seriously, so like most of the time, and most governments, they do take advantage. And of course, at the end of the day, it's true, people need roofs over their heads, they need good roads, they need a recovery plan, economic wise, because if the economy is not doing well, then that means that it's going to be very tough when it comes to the citizens affording meals and rent and all that. So delaying is very disadvantageous, and people need to consider the fact that these people are human. The only difference is that the management and the governance level, they have money and these other ones don't have. So at the moment, I can see this conversation not ending but escalating. The NaRRa bill, the 1.44 billion relief funds, and more questions will keep popping up each and every day. More pressure will keep building each and every day. More citizens will keep demanding for accountability each and every day. Remember, the NaRRa bill was supposed to represent a certain structure, but today, what it is representing, it's a debate whereby people have come out to just discuss about it, and not it's no longer structure and an order that was to be there to help push for something. And probably NaRRa by now, it represents dissatisfaction, and I can tell you that this NaRRa issue will make sense the day there will be transparency, full transparency, whereby the spending is going to be explained fully and in a way that people will be satisfied. NaRRa bill will actually make sense to people when the citizens of Jamaica start seeing visible results on the ground. So until now, NaRRa bill is like just a debate, people don't have trust in it. Because, at the end of the day, when billions and billions of money are being involved, silence is never an option. And Jamaicans, every day, they want to know, like, what's happening? What just happened, Anyway, my good people, thank you so much. If you actually watched the clip up to this point, I do appreciate your presence. I'll see you in the next video.